happy that I'm sorry. I'm happy that you appreciate the subject, and frankly, I've been pretty passionate about this subject for some time, and I'll explain to you why. Maybe I will start with telling you why I took up the subject of empathy, how it came to me in a way. Well, 2 years ago, I was teaching online, and frankly, I was really suffering from heavy burnout. It was, I guess, a lot of you, especially at university and so on, probably shared the same feeling with me. We didn't speak about that much, but with me, frankly, it became like almost pathological. I was frantically looking for something that can help me, and I was asking people. I was asking people what to do, how to go about that. I was also, frankly, I have consulted some specialists and so on. And I got one piece of advice, because generally speaking, giving advice is not being very empathetic. I got one piece of advice to join studies, and I joined at this time. I decided, why not? I can join the studies that I have wanted for a long time. I joined studies to become a business trainer and a coach. And during the studies, I met a lot of people, and when we studied to be a coach and to be a trainer, business trainer, you actually experience all the activities yourself. You try them out on yourself, which is pretty nice and pretty developing. But I met a lot of people, young people, mostly people working for corporations. I met also Anya. Yeah, I wanted to tell you about Anya. If you, for a second, I hope she doesn't mind. She was working. She is working. She works for a global corporation where her position is a DE&I officer. DE&I officer. These are in the process of our studies. Actually, she became the. I don't know if you can see. I'm sorry, because I can see that the pictures of my presentation. Could you tell me if you can see well? Actually, what is on the pictures?
I see DE officer and then DEIB officer, yes, as they appear one by one.
All right. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. So DEI and B, she became during our studies, her position changed to be DEI and B officer, which is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And I was thinking when she was telling me about her job, wow, what a great position. I frankly really wanted to if I could choose one more my career, once again, my career, probably this would be the direction I would go towards. And she talked about her job, what she does, and she was really like sort of crazy about empathy, and nonstop she was talking about empathy, that most of the stuff she does is based on empathy. And she encouraged me to do our study ending project in empathy. We actually, as our diploma work, we prepared together a long training on empathy in leadership. And I just want to tell you that if you Google empathy in business, you'll get over 107 million, I tried myself, so 107 million hits, unique hits on Google. When you Google empathy in education, although it sounds pretty much obvious, you get much fewer hits. Okay, so this is a subject which is sort of really alive and discussed, sort of fashionable buzzword in business nowadays. Well, in education, we also talk about it. We sort of take it for granted. But frankly, we don't talk too much about that. At least this is my experience. Actually, quite recently, I got an invitation from one of the companies inviting me for a webinar or some training about educational institution for EDI, which is equality, diversity, and inclusion training. So there is some sign of it in education, once again, in education, but it's not as advanced as it is in business, where it's really, really a buzzword. Now, the idea of this work is actually to, as Anya told me and kept on repeating, is creating a more welcoming environment for people of less privileged backgrounds. And I was thinking that, you know, at university, in educational institution, there is really a heavy need for activities like that, and for also simply naming those activities, empathy. I mean, naming them the way they are and maybe basing them on empathy. Also in business, I will refer quite a bit to business because, as I said, they are maybe one step ahead in this issue because it's important for them. There is something called empathy index, and they have discovered that companies that are at the top of the index list actually are much more profitable. So sort of empathy translates into money for them. And frankly, I think that there is a lot of place for us in education, especially because of the VUCA situation. Lucina has developed a sort of the acronym VUCA for you, but I will tell you once again. VUCA is actually a very interesting concept that was created during the Cold War in the United States. It sounds scary, and it is scary, frankly. But ever since, it's been referred to the business situation and to the world around. But it has become quite strong recently, okay? And of course, we know reasons for this. I will mention them in a moment. But VUCA stands for the environment which is volatile, uncertain, so changing non-stop, unable to see what exactly it is, okay? What exactly the situation is. It's so complex that we cannot very often find the roots of the situations. We cannot like disambiguate it in any way. It's ambiguous and unclear. If I could show you, this is probably the most famous VUCA illustration. So you can see that this is the environment around us, which is high volatility, high uncertainty, high complexity, and high ambiguity. I guess that if you think for a second, you can very easily relate it to the world around us, Now, there are more theories concerning what is happening around, and I would like just to mention them. Just, you know, to show you the picture why we need empathy. One of the most famous theories, the Black Swan theory, which is by Taleb. It appeared in his essay quite in the 60s, and Black Swan theory is a theory actually in economics, which says that there are certain events in the world that are highly improbable, but once they happen, they have a heavy impact on the surrounding. Zygmunt Bauman, our Polish philosopher, he had the concept of liquid modernity that was changing nonstop, and we are not able really to pinpoint and see what is happening there. There is a concept of the new normal, which I'm sure you can also relate to. Things that some time back were completely abnormal, atypical, become completely normal and common in our world. I guess we can really mention a lot of them. And finally, there is this quotation that I wanted to give here of American General Donald Rumsfeld, which says, unknown unknowns, there are things we don't know, So all this, all in all, it boils down to the situation that we really don't know what will happen, what is happening, and this is the world in which we have to thrive. Now, sorry. Now, some of I wanted to mention just so that you can see, all this I'm talking about shapes our learners, shapes our situation in the classroom, generally speaking, our educational situation a lot, but also shapes our lives. Well, just to mention few results, or rather few things which are happening: COVID, war, climate crisis, social crisis, global economic crisis, energy crisis, and political situation. Actually, I gave this presentation during the Poznan IATEFL conference, and frankly, the situation is changing so much that I needed to add the energy crisis after the. I was thinking that if there is something to add, and yes, there was one more danger, one more situation that is heavily influencing our lives, which is energy crisis. And probably you could mention many more. All this causes all this is the cause of the situation in our classrooms. I'm sure that and you can name a lot of results. Now, depressions, generally speaking, suicides, detachment, students' detachment, I don't know if you can observe it, and general like mental instability that is present in our world and in our classrooms. My point is that there is a general remedy for the situation, which is basically empathy. Now, I want to tell you about empathy, but believe me, rather the empathy understood in a little bit different way from the common understanding, which is empathy as being able to share somebody else's emotions by imagining what it would be like to be in the situation. So I have underlined here the word imagining, because we can never, ever feel the same. Carl Rogers, the psychologist, he kept on insisting that it's always as if. But the idea is to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Now, I wanted to stress that it's a sophisticated neurological system. So it's not a phenomenon that we can just observe outside. Nowadays, it's a very well-researched phenomenon, which actually there is at the end of my presentation, I'll give you some sources that I used. There is numerous research about what is happening when we're empathizing in human brain, and there is a chemical reaction that is happening. And what actually happens is that the situation of a person who is empathizing with the person with another person is that the brains become the brains become more or less the same when it comes to the neurotransmitters. It's been very well researched. There's numerous evidence, which is neuroimaging evidence that this is what happens. Now, so this is not only what we feel or what we can observe with our eyes. No, this is a neurological system. There is a beautiful word in German. This is Einfühlung. Sorry, I didn't have an umlaut, however much I looked for it, which is feeling into a situation. And when scientists talk about empathy, very often they use this very word, this German word, because it's really in a picturesque way shows what happens in human brain. Well, I wanted to stress something. Sometimes as language teachers, we say that empathy is the same as sympathy. Nope, it's not the same. Empathy is not sympathy. Empathy is not pity. Empathy is not compassion. It's something different. I wanted you to watch a really short movie. This is Brené Brown and how she shows how she explains emotions. But I hope you have to tell me whether you can hear, because I'm just wondering whether I clicked that the sound needs to be shared too. I will start, okay, and you tell me if you can hear or not. It will take only 2 minutes, and it illustrates in a beautiful way the attributes that I will talk about in a moment, and the definition of empathy. Could you tell me if you can hear? Oh, nope.
The moment I can hear, I heard one sound and then you stopped it.
Okay, wait, just so you can hear. All right, so let's watch for a second.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. I had a, yeah, and we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
All right. So just I hope that you enjoyed a short clip about empathy. And I think there are a lot of moments that we can sort of refer to where, you know, we really make a lot of mistakes and we think we are empathetic. And I really enjoyed this part of it, that it doesn't start with at least, and we do it so many times. Now, the attributes of empathy are the same that Brené Brown illustrated so well in this short movie. The first one is perspective taking. Okay, we need to take the perspective of the other person. We cannot look from your own perspective. You need to try to put yourself down in this dark place. You need to probably try to get the feeling that those people are getting. The second one is staying non-judgmental. And as Brené Brown says, we are very judgmental. We as teachers are often very judgmental. It's difficult, but it's possible to practice it. and probably this is the key of being empathetic. Recognizing emotions in another person is saying what the emotion is and naming it. I will repeat it many times because name it to tame it. Once you know what emotion you are talking about, so you are sad, you are irritated, this is being empathetic. And communicating the understanding of another person's emotion, not only saying, but communicating with it, communicating probably with your whole body, with your words, with the tone of your voice, with everything, that you understand what the emotions are. Brené Brown in this movie says something very important. She said that you need to know this feeling, and which is also one of the points. There is one more, because there are 4 attributes, but there is something which is curiosity. And I will hopefully I will refer to this curiosity many times. This curiosity is something that we actually, during our classes in our educational process, can show a lot of curiosity. Sometimes we don't like it. We think we are getting too personal, too deep into things. But the fact is that showing curiosity about people as human beings is being extremely empathetic. I will get back to this being curious. Now, why should we do it? I will go through the reasons what benefits showing being empathetic actually gives. Well, you can see as students, students, people around you as complete human beings. Yeah, you can discover the feelings, fears, and motivations, which can actually be a great feedback for your process. It can also be a great diagnosis for your teaching problems, if you have any. Well, it allows us to build a deep trust, and only deep trust is the base of good rapport with people. There is numerous really research which is very well established, especially in business, that good moods is superior problem solving and creativity. If you ever look at what happens in corporations with those, for example, Google organizing the restrooms with games, playing different games, places to nap, and so on. All this is meant to create a friendly relation, to create friendly environment, because they know very well, because the research is clear about that dopamine, serotonin, unlike cortisol, for example, they allow learning to happen. Cortisol is fear, fright, and everything. It stops learning from happening. It generally promotes optimal learning. Sorry, one more. There is teachers are leaders. Teachers are leaders, we are leaders, and leading is about emotions and changing brain chemistry. Once again, this is not a figure of speech. Changing brain chemistry really happens. It really happens that neurotransmitters change, they flow, and so on. So it's not a figure of speech. This very thing about leadership is said by Daniel Goleman. You might be familiar with his ideas. He's the author who is into researcher who is into emotional intelligence. Now, when it comes to business cooperation, it's also really important in educational process. There is a significant reduction of absenteeism, which I think I heard that after COVID is actually a great problem in many places. And unlike what we sometimes think, people who are empathetic are perceived as more competent. So it's sort of counterintuitive, especially in our country. It creates a culture of collaboration that we really need in today's world, in our country especially, and the we community. That is something that we should really try to create from. Yeah, we should really try to create, especially in our country. Now, how to go about it? No, before that, there is a great quotation by Jeremy Rifkin, who is a social social theorist, to empathize is to civilize. And I really believe that this is how it works. Now, is empathy teachable? Well, you can ask yourself if you can teach it. Well, yes, you can teach it. The first moment of teaching is modeling it. So being empathetic as a teacher. I wanted to show you the model of empathy, which was created by a researcher, Helen Rees from Harvard. Her model is called empathy, and at some moments, for I think for the sake of this acronym, it's a little bit trivial, but actually it has elements which are very important. The first one is surprise, surprise, eye contact. It's impossible to create empathetic relationship. It's impossible to show empathy without looking to people's eyes, supposedly. I don't know how it happens online. If it can happen online, you can ask yourself if it's possible. My experience shows that maybe to some extent. I wanted you to be careful about this concept when it comes to if you are in some intercultural surrounding, because I always say that if I want to scare some of my students in intercultural groups, I just look at them. Prolonged eye contact can be in some cultures considered impolite and scary. So be careful here. M is for muscles and facial expressions. I guess we have no doubt about that it matters, and this is about those micro expressions, not only about a smile, but also about the smile and so on. But there are some things that probably need to work deeper if you want to really be empathetic. P is for posture, which is not dominant, which is not like looming over students and so on. And here I would like to just say that I remember an exchange with one of my senior teachers, and she asked him, "Do you stand when you teach? Don't tell me you don't stand." "No, I don't stand. I sit in front of the students. I sit, and because I want to be at the same level as they are. If they are simply the posture, dominant posture, is not empathetic." A is for affect, which is emotions, showing emotions and acknowledging emotions, T is for tone of voice. Now, tone of voice, as you probably know, is where I wish I got some statistics actually for this presentation. 38% it's supposed to be when it comes to nonverbal communication. 38%. So it's also a bit cultural, because some cultures people are speaking a soft way. In some cultures they speak in a let's say not as soft a way, but generally speaking, the tone of voice should be soothing. H is for hearing the whole person, and I will talk about it in a moment. Okay, it's probably it should be somewhere at the beginning. Hearing the whole person is not only hearing the words. I know that we are language teachers and we even don't hear words, but we hear sounds that we should hear to correct or something like that. But very often in this hearing sounds and words, we miss the person. We don't look at the emotion, we don't look at the body language, and we don't look at the whole context. I will give you an example later of hearing the whole person, when you actually listen to at least this empathetic listening happens at 2, 3, or even 4 levels, and it's And the last one is why. It's your response. It's not only words, it's the fact that you allow your brain, the chemistry of your brain, to change. And what happens if you, having done all this, having taken also the non-judgmental perspective and non-judgmental perspective, what happens that there is simply deep understanding and deep communication happening, which really helps a lot of things. Now, I wanted to, for a second, tell you, because Helen Reed's model is very nice, but it's sort of maybe a little bit shallow. I wanted to talk about it a little bit deeper, if you don't mind, and because I guess it's pretty important, especially for us as human beings too. Well, I think that to model it well, to show empathy, we can show our values, and we can also speak clearly about our values. We should make it a point to say, this is my value. I value openness, I value integrity and stuff like that, whatever your values are, and demonstrate them, but also simply speak about them. There is a question of authenticity. It would be really great if you were the same person in the class and the same person outside the class. You've got the right to be yourself, and the fact that you show yourself as a human being, yourself as yourself, not somebody else, not a teacher, but you, Gosha, you, Anya, is a great lesson of it's a great lesson, generally speaking, for people. The meaningfulness of interactions. Now, as I said, having little time, having many classes, trying to maintain some discipline depending what level you teach at, we very often lose the meaningfulness of interactions that happen in the classroom. I just wanted to give you 2 examples that I have seen myself. One of them, there was a teacher, I saw a teacher, I observed a teacher, and he was talking to students. He was asking them about the last weekend. I said, Anya, so what did you march and what did you do? And there was Wojtek who said, somebody said, I went to the cinema, I went there. And Wojtek said, I went to my brother's funeral. Oh, you went to your brother's funeral, said the teacher, and just went on. And well, if somebody says, I went to my brother's funeral, this requires some other reaction, so that the interaction is in any way meaningful to the student, to the group, to you, right? It needs something else. I also saw during some business training, there is something called round that I'll talk about, and the trainer was going from person to person asking about the reflection. And there somebody said this, and there was Daga who said something, and she started crying, and then the next person started speaking. And there was a man who said, hey, let's stop. Daga is crying, something happened. And, I was really moved, and a little bit, maybe not moved. I felt that this was done the right way, so that the meaningfulness of interactions, the emotions are sort of taken care of. Showing integrity, showing yourself as an integral person, showing your own integrity, showing yourself as an honest person, keeping promises, and so on. Openness. I don't know how much openness we can afford, but I think we should be simply fully open as much as possible. Not about everything, but this is a lesson of empathy. Civic courage. Yeah. All this needs civic courage, but also encouraging civic courage in the classroom, allowing people to speak for others, allowing them to I don't know, to be brave in the class, to work, to show the values. And generally speaking, going for deep learning, not shallow learning. Yeah. Now, and the last one is acceptance for diversity. It's the last one, but it shouldn't be the last one, frankly. In today's world, where we openly speak about neurodivergent people, and they're everywhere around us, where people from different races, from different backgrounds, from different countries join studies, we need to have full acceptance, show full acceptance, and sort of protect them from others in the class. Now, I wanted to say something about operational level, how to go about it, how to go in a practical way. The first one is holistic listening. Encourage holistic listening. Well, I guess that you need very often to tell people what holistic listening, how to go about it, how to, that you listen at several levels, that you look at the body language. There are lots of exercises online you can find about it. One of them is talk and listen. There's a very simple exercise, which is actually from marriage therapy, where it's very simple but very meaningful. One person talks and the other one listens to this person to the end. Okay, until this person finishes, which sounds easy, but yeah. And the idea is when you listen, you don't think about what you're going to say next, but you listen with all your senses. The second one that I wanted to tell you about is by team building. You know, for things to go on in the class, to go on without any I don't know, any problems, so that the relationships are built, you need to help it. And I do encourage you to use different simply team building activities, actively help it. I know that we do it a little bit, but it should be done at the to some great extent. I personally go even as far and ask students to, I make sure that they have a group on social media. I don't, of course, join the group, but I make sure I ask, is there a group? Where is the group? Who is the administrator or owner? And I ask, is everybody there? And I ask, is Asha a member of the group? Or I simply make sure that everybody is included there and that they have some communication, and there is a team building also at the informal level outside the class. It really helps. It really helps. Also in communication in case there is some trouble. About identifying and communicating values, I'm really strong about that. I really think that we all should communicate our values so that nobody violates them, and nobody wants to somehow, you know, if you don't agree with somebody's values, for example, you can change the class or something like that. And especially if you're teaching some international surrounding, I think it's pretty important. But helping students identify the values. As I said, I was studying to be a coach, and in coaching there are lots of activities where you work with your values. There are lists of values that you cross out, and you come out with 5 values. This is a great language exercise for personality nouns or something, but also it's a very revealing exercise and meaningful exercise for students. And you know, I make it a point, you know, that, you know, if this is your value, what can we do for you? Or I tell them that if they have a discussion, they come, there is some argument or something that they communicate against my values, or something like that. It's, I think, pretty much important. Practicing kindness. Well, sounds easy, but the fact is that students really simply lack language sometimes to express kindness, and by role plays and simulations just for expressing kindness, for supplying the language, you can help them a lot, because really sometimes they don't, even at high levels, they don't have the language for it, and once they have the language and this awareness, it works better. About emotions, teaching about emotions, great language exercise, and raising awareness of emotions. As I said, name it to tame it. You know, naming emotions is very important. And it creates trust. So both the language and empathy are there if you do it. Now, practicing appreciation. I'm not sure if you are familiar with the concept of kudos. It's a concept from business. Sending kudos to people. frankly, I don't know what language it is in, maybe in English. It's a note of appreciation. And in corporations, they try to introduce this concept that you thank people for something, or basically you show appreciation. Thank you for the coffee. And, you know, they supply people with those pieces of paper. They encourage them, bosses and kudos. When I was teaching online, actually, it turned out to be the only one of not many pluses of teaching online from my point of view, but because it was quite easy. Teams, actually, they have you can send those different not only emoticons but different signs of appreciation, and, you know, be specific that thank you very much for the presentation, this and this was good. You know, during the reflection time at the end, you know, allow students say, so, you know, I felt pretty moved when I heard your story, or something like that. It really creates good atmosphere, and it really helps to make people aware how to show empathy. I have more, probably. Oh yeah, practicing perspective taking. Well, we do it a lot, but, you know, it's good that we do it with understanding why we do it. So role play stories from different points of view. I saw a great exercise, which was actually telling the story of Cinderella from different points of view. And there were pictures of shoes. So there were godmother's shoes. There were one of the sister's shoes, and you got into the shoes, right? And you told the story. I encourage my business students to you know, if we read about any conflicts and so on, I encourage them to try to tell the story, to narrate the story, or narrate the problem from another perspective. It's necessary for taking for being empathetic. At our university, they've become sort of crazy about coaching, mentoring, and tutoring. We call them the big INTs. Okay, but the fact is that all those techniques and all those methods, they use exactly the same techniques with a little bit different ending. The idea is to develop, the idea is to connect, the idea is to use different tools to raise awareness of students, of themselves, of the inner selves. It's very useful, and I do encourage you to apply those methods. Actually, in the book that I was reading, Helen Rees put art on the at the very beginning, because there is nothing more. There is no better exercise of empathy than looking at art. She actually, there was research about looking at pictures, looking at works of art. There are many ways you can do it. I personally, for example, use coaching cards or something like this, which have pictures, and I ask them to try to feel into that. It's an empathy exercise, definitely. Yeah. Now, the meaning of reflection. There is one exercise which is very common in business training, and it happens at most business trainings, which is around. In Polish, if I could tell you, it's rundka, which basically means that either at the beginning or at the end, you give your reflection. So you ask, so what are you starting with? And everybody says, I'm starting in this and this mood. I'm expecting this and this. And at the end, you say, what are you finishing with? Okay, I'm not saying that we can do all the time, but generally speaking, there is time for reflection. We should encourage reflection. We should encourage students reflection so that they can sort of exchange. There is also a lot of place for silence in the room. I'm pretty bad at this, frankly, but I'm practicing. so that we don't feel bad when there is silence. Okay, it's a little bit of silence because the time when people think, even if they take their phones out or something like this, there is nothing wrong with that. It's difficult for me personally. Generally speaking, this being empathetic is being slow to give space to students, to give space to let them feel the things. And all this, it's the second time, or maybe even the third time, I'm mentioning deep learning, so that we go deeper than the words, deeper than the pronunciation, deeper than reading comprehension. There is also something that is very important that's worth mentioning, and especially one before last points that I would like to mention, which is mentioning self-regulation. Self-regulation is how to manage your emotions, how to manage empathy, because empathy can cause emotions. And there is Helen Lisa, she's the one who advocates this ABC model. A is if something happens, if you come across a situation when you feel you need to empathize, but it's too overwhelming for you, you need to acknowledge your feeling. You need to breathe heavily from the from your belly, the diaphragmatic breath, and you need to show curiosity. Okay, in fact, she says that there are some people who are unable to feel into the situation, who are unable to show full emotions, but then the second best thing to show yourself as an empathetic person and to build connection is to show curiosity. Curiosity not in the negative point of view, but simply curiosity in the situation by looking and asking further questions, deeper questions. If you think that the questions have gone too far, you can see the reaction is not favorable, to stop it, but to do it. Not to stop at the beginning, like my brother died. Oh, really? Now, and another self-regulation technique, which you can also do in the classroom, which is basically mindfulness, where you stop, concentrate on one thing. You don't even have to call it mindfulness, but the idea is that you concentrate on one thing at the time. Now, I would like you to, actually, I have almost finished. I would welcome your comments if you have any. I would like you to have some takeaways from my little bit long talk. If I were to mention what is most important from the topic of empathy for me personally, it's the first one would be authenticity. Okay, that you can be yourself, and by being yourself and allowing people to be themselves, you show actually empathy. The second one is integrity, that you've got the right and obligation to show integrity in the class, which we often don't. The third one is, generally speaking, allowing for emotions. Emotions can happen, will happen, should happen. Simply, it's a normal thing. The fourth one is holistic listening, listening to the whole person, and actually it's the base of empathy is listening. And I have to say that I do encourage you to have some coaching training in university or somewhere where you are. I don't think it's a better practice for listening as coaching. Coaches don't give any advice, they just listen, and it's a really good ability. And the next one is meaningfulness of interactions, so that our interactions are deeper and meaningful and something to be remembered, something basically that can influence, and there is some connection of ideas. And the last one, and I don't know which one is the most important, but maybe this one, or maybe authenticity, would be showing curiosity, healthy curiosity of another, of people around you. I have one more issue that I would like to touch upon just very briefly. You know, I was thinking that when it comes to empathy, we also have to talk of empathy of person to person, of teacher to teacher, from different institutions. We often don't show empathy to each other, and we really deserve it. We really deserve it. If I could suggest something, start showing empathy to teachers of your children. There's something I really observed at teacher-parent meetings, that parents don't show, even if they are teachers, they don't show empathy towards other teachers. So this is all from me for today. I hope that there is something that you found interesting, or something that inspired you in any way, because I must say that the subject of empathy in education has become my real passion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If I may, I feel really inspired by you, because you are talking my language, and you know, empathy is not such one of those among those topics which are not so widely discussed. Yes,
no.
We concentrate on content, we concentrate on form, but very strictly understood, but we don't talk about our emotional attitudes towards other teachers and towards our students to begin with. So I need this kind of reinforcement that I have got from you in this webinar, in today's webinar. So thank you very much for it.
Thank you very much. I just, if you are interested, here are some sources. Here are some sources that I have used. There are quite a bit of them, and if you are interested in empathy as such, this book by the second one, which is Helen Rees and Neporent, Empathy, the Empathy Effect, Neuroscience based keys for transforming however it goes. It's a great book. It's a popular book, but it's based on real research, and the way she describes and the passion she talks with is really very nice. So I do recommend the readings. I didn't mention I just saw Neurone Rustrane because they've been really talked about a lot for the last years, but of course they're also present there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And I would like to thank all the participants as well. It's really nice to see some names from the Jagiellonian University. Yes, so your colleagues, yes. And now we see the lovely smiling faces. Hello, Monica. And we have our colleague also from Batumi State University, and that is Tamari. So Tamari has been with us for quite a while. So welcome to everybody, and to Ron as well, and to Monica, and all other people. Congratulations for participating in this webinar. And I hope that you will have all the inspiration that I personally will definitely have from this webinar. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the possibility of presenting my latest passion.
Yeah. And it's really nice that we can share this passion, because then it becomes really stronger. Yes. So I